Tom, if you could go through exactly what happened, exactly what the charges are, and also the timing is interesting. I'm interested in these criminal referrals to other members of Trump's administration and the timing given the election, if that strikes you in any way.
Right. Well, I mean, I think this is all part of a world of hurt for Steve Bannon. It was barely 24 hours ago, literally, when this time yesterday morning that the U.S. Coast Guard vessel and a helicopter were over that 152 yacht owned by that Chinese billionaire, as you were all just discussing, and they were in the process of taking Steve Bannon into custody. He was taken into custody 10 minutes from now yesterday. So this is something that developed quickly. I think when you look at Steve Bannon's legal world at this point, Mika, you're looking at a legal world that there's serious questions about that Chinese billionaire, what he's been up to. There have been complaints made to local police departments of people claiming that they've been swindled out of $500,000 from that individual, Guo Wenhui, excuse me. And Steve Bannon has obviously been, as you've just been discussing, has been palling around with him for the last several months, and somebody that Steve Bannon has been with. So I think there's serious questions about that person. There are the criminal referrals that you mentioned that were in the Senate Intelligence Committee report earlier this week looking at Russia as far as whether or not Bannon actually told the truth when he testified to Congress. So I think there's a lot of questions that are swirling around him. That Chinese billionaire, those investments that I mentioned, those complaints to local police departments are referred to the FBI, and based on public documents we were able to obtain yesterday, that's an investigation that's been going on since June. So I think for Steve Bannon, it's a real problem. You know, you all were talking about it. I think it was just a week ago that I was on here talking with you, Joe, about the NRA and the self-dealing and what was going on, and as far as people being taken advantage of. Just in yesterday's indictment, it says some of the donors were wrote directly to the person who ran this Build the Wall Foundation, saying they did not have a lot of money and were skeptical about online fundraising campaigns, but they were giving what they could because of the assurances that were made by this foundation. I mean, when you read that, it's kind of heartbreaking, and it's also kind of sad that people were hoodwinked by these people. I mean, does Steve Bannon really need the money to pay for his personal expenses out of people's hard-earned cash? I mean, I think, you know, this indictment certainly raises a lot of questions about his behavior.
Well, and Tom, you bring up such a great point. You have people that gave what little that they had for a cause that they really believed in. It reminded me when my grandmom, years and years ago, decades ago, would send in $25 checks out of her Social Security to Jim and Tammy Faye Baker at the PTL Club. And my parents and the rest of us would beg her not to do it. And, of course, they were swindlers as well. And unfortunately, with the NRA, you see that happening with the national NRA, and you've seen it happening with Jerry Falwell Jr., and you're seeing it here. But, Tom, let me ask you something. We went down the list: campaign manager, deputy campaign manager, foreign policy advisor, national security advisor, longtime lawyer, longtime political advisor, and now Bannon, all of them arrested and then eventually guilty of federal crimes. A lot of us in the news media have just sort of breezed over what may be one of the most remarkable parts of a Senate Republican-led Intel Committee report, and that is that the Republican-led Intel Committee sent 2 criminal referrals out on members of Donald Trump's family.
Right.
What do you know about Jared Kushner and Don Jr.'s criminal referrals, again, sent out not by partisans, but from a Republican-led Senate Intel Committee?
I think, you know, particularly when it involves a crime such as lying to Congress, that's not something that takes a tremendous amount of investigation. I'm curious to hear where those investigations are going, where they're at, how seriously they were looked at, what the underlying evidence might be that they lied. It appears, based on some of the information contained in that report. And I think you bring up a good point, Joe, in that, you know, this week it probably didn't get the attention that it deserved post-Mueller in the middle of a Democratic convention. But there were a number of revelations in that report about Paul Manafort, about contacts with a Russian intelligence operative that will probably, over time, get even more attention and get a closer look. And so I think when you look at those criminal referrals, those are serious, and it'd be interesting to know what is going on at the the Department of Justice with respect to those referrals and where those cases might be headed. Typically, the Justice Department, to a point I think Mika was trying to get to earlier, stays away from making indictments and making what could be seen as political type of statements and indictments within about 60 days of the election. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's been a memo that came out by AG Holder, was the last real guidance that we received on that. Bill Barr has made it clear that there'd be no investigations that would be political in nature or any sort of ramification on the presidential for either Democratic or Republican candidates that would pass his desk without his approval. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes going forward.
Well, it is fascinating, Mika, again, though, that you had Mueller pass on Don Jr. and Jared Kushner when there seemed to be evidence, at least Republicans on the Senate Intel Committee believed it, that they had committed crimes. But Mueller passed on it. Maybe he thought it was just too hot to handle politically. And now you have the Senate Intel Committee, Republicans on the Senate Intel Committee, sending out similar criminal referrals that are just on standby. So it would be fascinating to see what the Justice Department's doing. And I think that what Tom said makes a lot of sense. And what, obviously nothing should happen between now and the election at this point, just too hot politically. I'm just curious why they passed upon them earlier.
Yeah, the timing could be interesting. Maybe, well, we'll leave it there.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.